Alright, now let's start our next chapter, chapter number 14. Here we will talk about plant reproduction. Our key learning objectives will include understand differences between asexual and sexual reproduction, explore flowers' role in sexual reproduction, investigate seed germination, learn about pollination types and pollination effects. First, let's talk about sexual versus asexual reproduction. Wild banana characteristics contain seeds, sexual reproduction, genetic diversity provides disease resistance, natural variation between offspring. Modern banana cultivation, seedless cultivars, propagated through suckers, asexual reproduction, genetically identical plants. Cavendish banana challenge. 50% of global banana production, genetic uniformity creates vulnerability susceptible to Panama fungal disease, urgent need for genetic diversification. Let's talk about pollination mechanism. Insect pollination, key characteristics, insects attracted by flowers' color and scents. Pollen transfers occurs during nectar collection, requires specific flower adaptations. Wind pollination, unique flower adaptations, no petals, exposed anthers and stigmas, smooth lightweight pollen, large pollen production. Comparative flower characteristics. Pollination types, petal, insects pollinated large and conspicuous, wind pollinated small or none maybe. Scents, strong in insect pollinated and in wind it is none. Pollination type pollen, sticky and spiky in insects pollination and smooth and light in wind pollination. Pollen quantity moderate in insect pollination, extremely high in wind pollinated. Flower anatomy. Structural components of a flower include sepals, petals, anthers, stigma, ovaries. Plant reproduction and seed germination, fertilization process in flowering plant. Now let's talk about male gamete journey. Pollen tube mechanism, grows through micropyle, small hole in ovule. Transport male gamete nucleus. One pollen grain fertilizes one ovule. Multiple pollen grain needed for multiple ovules. Fertilization steps. Male gamete nucleus travels through pollen tube. Fuses with female gamete nucleus in ovule. Creates a zygote through fertilization. Now let's talk about seed formation and its characteristics. Post-fertilization changes. Flower part, sepals, petals, stamens wither and fall off. Ovules transforms into seeds. Zygote divides by mitosis to form embryo plant. Seed properties. Highly dehydrated, minimal metabolic activity. Dormancy advantages, survives harsh environmental conditions, can withstand cold and drought. Metabolic pause protects seed survival. Seed germination conditions, essential requirements, water, oxygen, water temperature, potential light requirement. Species dependent. Reproduction methods comparison. In asexual reproduction, the characteristics include single parent, genetically identical offspring, no genetic variation, and quick reproduction. In sexual reproduction characteristics, we have one or two parent, genetic variation, gamete fusion, more complex process. Reproduction method advantages. In asexual method, the advantage is its rapid reproduction and disadvantage is limited genetic diversity. Whereas in sexual reproduction, we have genetic variation as an advantage and requires more resources as an disadvantage. Now we have pollination types. First is self-pollination. Some plants provide male and female gametes. Minimal genetic variation. Useful in stable environment. So here we have same plant, pollination. Then we have cross-pollination. Here we have different plant exchange gametes, significant genetic variation, beneficial in changing environment. Now let's talk about key consideration in plant reproduction. Here we have genetic variation importance. It helps species adapt to environmental changes, provides resilience against diseases, enables evolutionary potential. Seed bank concept preserves plant genetic diversity, stores seeds from various plant species, global network of seed conservation. Evolutionary perspective. It includes reproduction strategy selection. Environment determines optimal reproduction method. Balance between genetic stability and adaptability. Natural selection influences reproductive strategies. Now let's talk about plant reproduction and flower biology, sexual reproduction fundamentals. Key characteristics includes first definition, the process involving fusion of gamete nuclei produces genetically diverse offspring and involves creation of zygote with unique genetic combination. That is the plant reproduction, sexual reproduction fundamentals. Chromosomes terminology is haploid. We must know what is haploid chromosome. It's a single set of chromosome found in gametes. Example is jacaranda tree gamete with 9 chromosomes. Diploid, another type. It has 2 sets of chromosomes found in zygote. An example is jacaranda tree cells with 18 chromosomes. Alright, now let's talk about flower structure and pollination. So flower parts. First is reproductive structures. Stamen is male, includes filaments and anthers. Carpels are female, includes styles, stigma, ovaries, ovules. Now let's talk about pollination types. First is cross-pollination, transfer of pollen between different plants of same species. Promotes genetic diversity, typically involve insect or wind assistance. Now self-pollination, pollen transferred within the same flower or plant, less genetic variation. Okay, now let's talk about pollination mechanism. Here we have insect pollinated flowers, colorful petals, nectar production, specific structural adaptations. Then we have wind pollinated flowers. It includes feathery stigma, exposed anthers, spiky pollen grains. Now let's talk about fertilization process steps. First step is pollen grain transfer to stigma. Next, pollen grain tube growth. Then nucleus fusion in ovule, zygote formation leads to seeds development. Now let's talk about seed germination requirements. Essential conditions for seed germination includes water presence, oxygen presence, and warm temperature should be there, and potentially there should be light exposure. Reproduction strategies, as we discussed before as well, sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, advantages are genetic diversity, adaptability, enhanced survival potential. In asexual reproduction, we have banana plant suckers example. Advantages is rapid reproduction and genetic consistency. Let's talk about primrose flower pollination strategy. This is 2 flower types, pin-eyed and thrum-eyed. A specialized insect interaction mechanism, and it promotes cross-pollination. Now some important terminology which you should keep into your mind is gamete, sex cell capable of fertilization, zygote, cell formed by fusing gamete nuclei, pollination, transfer of pollen between reproductive structures, and fertilization, fusion of gamete nuclei. Now let's talk about sexual reproduction in flowering plants. So flower structure and function first. The overview is flowering plant can reproduce both asexually and sexually. Primary function, create gametes and ensure fertilization. Many flowers are hermaphroditic, which means contain both male and female reproductive parts. Flower anatomy. External parts include sepals. Protective green structure shield the flower while in bud. Petals, brightly colored, attracts insects, often have guidelines directing insects to nectaries. Now, internal parts include stamens, male reproductive parts composed of filament, long stalk, anther, top part containing pollen grains produce male gametes within pollen. Then we have carpels, female reproductive part. It is located in flower center. Its components includes ovary. It contains ovules. Style is an elongated structure, and stigma, that tip that catches the pollen. Now, some specialized structures include nectary. These are the glands at petal base, secrete sweet nectar and attracts pollinators. Next, we have pollen grains and ovules. Pollen characteristics appears as fine, often yellow powder. The unique characteristic of pollen grains are it varies in shape, spiky smooth, hard protective coat, contains male gametes. Microscopic examination reveals intricate structure. Now let's talk about ovule characteristics. It's located inside ovary, contains female gamete nucleus, site of potential fertilization. Let's talk about pollination process now. The mechanism is transfer of pollen from anther to stigma, primarily accomplished by insects, example honeybees. Pollination steps, learn them in order. First, insects attracted by flowers' color and scent, follows guidelines to nectaries, brushes against anthers collecting pollen, transfers pollen to stigma of another flower. Successful pollination occurs between same plant species. The key process in fertilization is fusion of pollen grain nucleus with ovule nucleus, enables genetic combination and reproduction. With this, we have finished this chapter. See you in our next chapter.